Thank you all for coming out this cold, cold morning for 1 Million Cups. We're a weekly educational program that helps entrepreneurs tell their stories and give advice to them and provide them with feedback from the community. So we've been going about 18 months now. We're in 24 cities around the country. It's been a great year. We're so glad that you've been here to join us. Just a quick reminder before we get started, you're welcome to help tweet along at 1 Million Cups KC, and that's our Twitter handle, or hashtag 1MC. And then we've also got our presenters' Twitter handles over here on the right. And then finally, next week, please remember we'll be at the Block School at UMKC. So please don't come to the Kauffman Foundation. You'll be left out in the cold in so many ways. So first up is Chris from ClaimKit. ClaimKit is a new company, and Chris was very gracious to help us fill in last minute after someone called in sick. So please welcome Chris to 1MC.
How's everyone doing today? Good. Oh my gosh, this guy's going to talk about claim documents. That is the most boring thing in the world, right? All right, so we're going to do a little audience participation just to kind of get us started on understanding this concept. So everyone, this half of the room over, just raise your hand up in the air. All right, just raise your hand up in the air. Everyone on this side of the room, mourn for those people over here because they all just got crushed by the roof falling down. All right? Mourn for them. Okay, mourning's over, and all their family members are coming in, and they want to get compensated because they're done mourning too. And these are important people, so they're worth something. So they want to blame the contractor, and they want to blame the architect. They want to blame the insurance companies and the sureties, which is essentially a specialty insurance product for construction. So those insurance companies and those sureties are in a difficult position because they have to figure out what happened. And that's the problem, right? Construction companies generate lots and lots of gigabytes of data when they're doing their projects, when they're running their operations. Terabytes over the course of 10 years. So if you want to do one of these investigations, you've got to find those key documents in all that data. And these insurance companies and these sureties, they have access to that data. But what do? Well, to manage this data in the typical way that lawyers and consultants manage data, it costs about $20,000 per gigabyte over the lifetime of a case. So if we're talking 1,000 gigabytes, that's $20 million for one claim scenario. That's crazy. These insurance companies can't pay that. And so you can see the claim team ends up basically sticking their head in the sand because they don't go in and get the data and find the key documents. And I know this because I used to be one of those claim people. I don't like saying this, but I used to be an insurance attorney. All right, so how does ClaimKit work? How does our solution work? Well, you have that scenario where someone's going after the insurance company and the contractor or the architects, and the surety or the insurance company has to initiate their investigation. So that's when ClaimKit Collection comes in. That's our managed services, where we go in and we literally copy all of the data from the contractor. We'll clone hard drives, we'll clone laptops, we'll clone entire servers and exchange email accounts. Then we take all that data back to our office. We also scan paper documents. That's actually how we got started. We take all that data back to our office, and then we filter it down to the key documents. We find those key documents based on what the claim team tells us they need. So here the claim team might say, I need to see, there was a roof rehab in 2008. I need to see any email or any document mentioning the word roof from 2008. So we find all that data, and then we make it available in Docket. That's our collaborative claim document management system. It replaces all the boxes of documents that are shipped all around the country to evaluate these claims. And our clients are really happy with this ClaimKit plus Docket solution because we can do that investigation that should cost $20 million for $30,000 or so, depending on the size of the claim. So claim documents, it sounds like a small opportunity maybe to some of you. And we're going to be talking about this in just a second. Niche, why niche is so important. We love niche, right? We're in claim documents, but there's other opportunities in this space. No one has ever actually measured the amount of construction claims in the country. You can't find that stat anywhere. That amazes me, right? So that's predict claims. We want to take all this data that we have and start figuring out how much claims are going on out there and being able to predict claims. We also need to create more collaboration in this industry because you have attorneys, and then you have consultants and accountants, and then you have the insurance companies. It's like the Wild West. They're sending emails or text messages, and there's not one central hub for everyone to collaborate. So we need to develop that project management software as well. So if any of you are developers out there and this sounds like an interesting idea, you do mobile apps as well, come talk to me. We're also going to be doing we anticipate, SEC, I'm going to do this right, we anticipate doing some sort of capital raise in the future, so if you're interested in that, come talk to me. That's our business model. It's kind of boring. I want to get to the stuff that's interesting to entrepreneurs, so niche, right? When I was thinking about what information can I provide you all that are starting companies, one thing I'll say is if you're going to go niche, embrace it. And I would recommend going niche because you got to start with a target customer. So our niche is construction and surety claim documents and those professionals that are using them. And it took me a little while to get comfortable with going niche. But here's two great examples. Documentum. They started with creating document management solutions for computer-aided new drug approval. I've never heard of that, but it's a billion-dollar industry, and they were acquired by EMC in 2003 as a result. Epic Systems, they are a local company. A lot of people may not have heard of them before. They started out with bankruptcy document management and class action document management. Now they're in electronic discovery as well. And it's now a publicly traded company. They have offices all over the world. It's okay to go niche. There's a lot of business problems out there that people are dying for the solution. We have some stats and milestones. The most important one to me is we just went over $1 billion in claims managed for our companies. That's fantastic. And most importantly, though, is the client, right? We're niche. We love our customers. I love claim professionals. It's a really weird thing to say, but I love claim professionals. And here's an example of them loving us. When I said ClaimKit was hired today, Jim said, "Oh, thank God, I'm dying here." That's a pain point. We have a solution for it, and ClaimKit is that solution. If it sounds like an interesting opportunity, come talk to me afterwards. We're starting to build out the infrastructure, build out the team now. Love to talk to you. Thanks.
Questions?
Somebody's got to be first. Who's first? Who's first with a question?
We got a question right back here.
It's
Your
too
name
late.
is great, so it's not that. Talk about how the employees feel when their computer's going to be cloned. Is there any resistance there? And do they need to be pre-informed that now all of their emails are going to be given to a publicly traded company? Also talk about, I mean, I can't believe it was 30 years ago when the Hyatt collapsed. What would this have done for all the people involved in the Hyatt?
Yep, that's a great question. Two great questions. So regarding cloning the computers, well, obviously we're talking about business computers that should be used for business purposes. And our customers have, our insurance companies that we represent have clauses in their contracts that say they're allowed to copy the books and records of the contractor. So everyone understands that, and it's also in the contractor's best interest to provide the information because a lot of times the insurance company is providing defense in litigation or claims on behalf of the contractor. So they're generally willing to support it unless there's those odd scenarios where something truly was done improperly that the contractor knows about that they don't want anyone to find out about. So in that case, you have to go to court oftentimes to get access. And then you mentioned the Hyatt collapse. That's a really good example. And that's a totally different time, right? So everyone was sending out letters. They were physically stamping documents. That's what the paper document world looked like. Today, that's done electronically with email. And what's interesting is I feel like the construction world, the construction claims world hasn't really caught up to the fact that everything's electronic. They're still trying to review everything, which is impossible when you have terabytes of data. And so in this scenario, we would go in and look for those key emails, those key drawings in that case. I've actually sat in a presentation to hear about how they dissected what happened on that case. But we'd go in and find those emails and those drawings and make those available through electronic search.
Chris, question for you over here.
getting back to this abstraction or pulling of the data from the client's computer systems, are you guys able to pull stuff that's been deleted but not completely scrubbed? And are you able to distinguish between what was and wasn't deleted? Because I know some carriers, they may have some protection of their own if their clients have attempted to hide information that way.
Yeah, it's a great question, and one of my favorite cases we ever worked on involved people in a company that tried to delete information from their computers. And so we were working with our claim team to get to those key documents, and somebody said, what does this mean? And it said eliminate, or it said EUR, right? So we said, all right, what is EUR? And I'm actually changing it because I can't talk about our cases exactly. So we went in and we searched for EUR in all the emails, and we got like 18 documents. And we went back in time, found the very first one, and somebody asked in the email, what's EUR mean? Eliminate upon receipt. So these are emails that people had actually deleted that we can recover. The key is it doesn't have to be, if the data gets overwritten by other data, then it's hard to recover. But if you just hit delete, it's not gone. Does that answer your question? Yeah, because the emails, when they get deleted, they're put into deleted folders, and we can, through the metadata, we can see exactly where we pulled that data from.
Next question up front.
Chris, tell a little more about how your customers find you and how you find your customers.
So it's a lot of word of mouth. The industry that we're in, everyone is really buddy-buddy. There's a conference every year, for example, where 700 people meet, and that really is the universe of our client base. There's not thousands upon thousands of users, but they have this really big pain points. So it just is something as simple as making our initial customers really happy, and then they refer us to another company, and then we go make them really happy, and we have to tweak our solution every time, and then they get referred. So it's word of mouth mostly, and then I do a lot of marketing in terms of putting information out there for lawyers, for consultants about the best way to handle claim documents. So my customers aren't really on Twitter that much. My customers are never on Facebook. We ignore our Facebook page basically. So it's a lot of calling and emailing and providing information.
All right, Chris, I've got a question.
Yes.
So I was in this industry for a little bit, architecture, engineering, that sort of stuff, and the amount of paperwork that's created is ridiculous. So how's that all taken into account and dealt with?
Well, I mean, that's kind of our solution. Like, we recognize that there's a lot of data, right? And people really, I mean, we can deal with as much data as exists. So what we're saying is, instead of reviewing all that data when you have a claim scenario, you can't review all that data anymore. You have to use search terms. You have to use date ranges to find exactly what you need in those subsets.
So in terms of like architectural drawings and endless revisions of minutes and all of that, it's all in there. So
all in there, yeah.
It's all in there.
If it's created on a computer, we can get to it.
That's remarkable.
Good morning. I'm a big fan of crowdsourcing, and I'm looking at this and it seems like, with all the information that's out there, when you started out, all these things in the past that have happened. I wonder if you've looked at anything where you could, do the Tom Sawyer, somebody else paint the fence model and set up something like a Wikipedia where lawyers and other litigators around the country that have the data, that have the case history, could populate your system.
That's really interesting, yeah. So, yeah, I think that would be great because there's a lot of information that comes in that's important for a claim scenario, right? And that information is just in people's heads. So like, how quickly did that claim get resolved? What did you do to get it resolved? That's the type of information that if you can get it into a Wicca system or maybe a project management software, you can not only start measuring it and saying, okay, it took us 10 days to resolve that claim. You could also then start predicting how future claims should be handled as well. So, absolutely.
So I have a question for you. From an analysis standpoint, are you looking through just keywords in document names and locations, like directories and things, or are you doing textual analytics inside the actual documents that you're pulling down? And if so, what are you using for that?
Yeah, it's inside the documents, and so we literally index all 1,000 terabytes, including all the metadata, all the text in that data. It gets a little tricky with PDFs that sometimes aren't searchable, so we have to apply what's called OCR to make them searchable. But yeah, we use a back-end engine to index all the documents and make them searchable on our local server.
And what type of analysis do you do inside? Are you just doing keyword searches, or are you breaking down and doing any kind of semantic analytics?
We aren't doing analytics yet. I know exactly where you're going, where you can start predicting what the team needs to see, right? So we haven't gotten there yet, but that's certainly coming down the pipe. Right now it's just keyword searches. And frankly, it's the first step that our customers need to get to because they aren't really using that. So the predictive part would be like trying to jump across a lake when you could just walk across it and get to the first step. Weird analogy.
Question for you right here.
First off, I'll say you're very brave for entering the e-discovery world. I just left it about a month ago, so I commend you. I was going to actually ask about predictive coding because that seems to be where a lot of it's headed right now. So how are you going to distinguish yourself from the other software products that have been on the market for a decade or more in this space?
Yep. So predictive coding for everyone is a process where somebody picks out a seed set of documents and they indicate why those documents are important. You know this a lot better than I'm explaining it, but you pick out a set of documents, explain why they're important, you tag them, and then you put them back into a system that looks at them, analyzes them, and then applies that analysis to the rest of the document set to predict what everyone else needs to see, right? Does that make sense? So how do we distinguish ourselves from that type of software? Well, number one, my customers don't need predictive analytics right now. They need a way to keep construction documents highly organized in a claim scenario. They need to be able to get the documents in very quickly, tag them very organized, so they aren't even interested in the predictive analytics yet. Number two, if we do go down that road, I think it's an entirely different algorithm for construction documents as it is for big litigation involving, giant law firms. So if I can go into construction documents and say, oh, here's some of the key documents based on the tone of these emails and change orders or whatever, that's a totally different algorithm than litigation. Does that make sense? So we're actually, when you said e-discovery, we're actually before e-discovery. We're at the claim scenario before everyone starts suing each other. And that's how we're able to save our client a lot of money because we don't process the documents like a lot of people do. We don't have to fight in court to get the documents. And everyone doesn't need to look at every single document at that step.
Am I up? Oh, okay. So working with 1 Million Cups, we've been building a software, and it's so hard to build like really good online products that work for everybody and then are ready to scale infinitely. And you guys are doing a ton of data analysis along the way. Can you talk about some of the lessons you've learned in just developing your software and maybe some things that like you did wrong that a lot of people in this room who are in that process could learn from?
Mm-hmm. So I'm a lawyer, and my co-founder, Doug, hi Doug, Doug's in North Carolina, he's a lawyer as well, right? So we did not have a software developer on our original team when we created our first product, Docket. So we outsourced that work to a software developer in Seattle, and it was before I moved back to Kansas City, so don't take offense, Kansas City developers. And it was a rough process, I'll be honest with you. We got through it, we got it done, but it went way over time. It would have gone way over budget, except for we're lawyers, so we knew how to draft the contract, and we protected ourselves. But it was a mess. It was a total mess. So I would say, if you have the ability to get someone on your team that at least understands how to manage a software project, do that. Doug did a fantastic job managing it, but I think we caused ourselves a lot of heartburn in the process. And then second, I just think design's very, very important, and you have to lay out the design up front and make sure the software developer can handle that design after you're done with it. Because we ran into some issues where the design was really, really neat, and the software developer originally signed off on it, but then when we got to actually coding and developing it, they're like, oh yeah, we can't actually do that. So those types of scenarios, I think, are things to avoid if possible. But it's a mess. Software development's an absolute mess.
Agree with that. Here, Chris, question for you right here.
I have a few. So from what I understand, correct me please if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're selling the entire service, like you go into a company and then you get all the data and stuff and then you would do the analysis and search, or if I'm a company, can I just buy your tools and run it myself?
Yeah, so our software Docket can be used as a standalone product, or people can use our integrated services as well to go get that data. So yeah, they're separate but integrated. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I work for a local IT company that focus on data backup and security. So can you talk about some of your security, solutions if you're getting all the data?
Yeah, if we're getting, well, let's see, I'm trying to think how, there's a lot to the security, and I'm trying to think what my clients would be happy with me talking about, because the insurance companies are very, very serious about these documents because they're financial documents, and something I learned was that financial documents are regulated by each state in terms of confidentiality and what can be done with them. So all of our users have their own passwords, obviously, and user accounts. We can track their activity, which is really important. There's a lot of programs out there where you can't actually see what everyone's doing, a lot of FTP sites. We picked a server provider that was very well known on purpose, or managed server or cloud-based server, whatever you want to call it, that was very well known, so I didn't have to worry about those issues. We back up on a continual basis our data so we can jump over to another region if we need to, if for some reason this other region collapsed. I'm not the tech guy, but that's the key points that I always hit on. And then encryption is another big issue, actually. So we encrypt our data as well. That's a huge one for the insurance companies.
Next question up front.
Hi, thank you for your presentation.
Thanks.
My business works with folks in the construction industry, and you kind of alluded to this. They're on the other side of the digital divide. They're not really comfortable with technology most times. What have you guys done in terms of design in your product, or usability standards, or what considerations have you given to trying to gently ease these folks in so they can have something that they can trust and rely upon?
It's a great question. So we made our software really as simple as possible. We created a very user-friendly interface. Everyone, it's like buzzwords that are just popping out of my mouth. But basically, I sat down a user in front of our design every time we were done with a design. And this is a typical target customer. And I said, show me how you would search in this software. And if it took them more than a few seconds to figure it out, I knew we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out a better solution. Because a lot of our users are professionals in their mid-30s, 40s, 50s. They're not excited about learning new software, so it had to be extremely simple. So we also stripped out some of the features that you'll see in more advanced software in our field, because what I realized is nobody's using it, right? There's you can go and find all these settings that no one knows, and they just get frustrated by all the different windows. And then the other key thing is I can tell people you cannot break this, right? Since it's a SaaS software, it's online, and the documents are hosted somewhere else that they don't have access to. They can't break it, they can't delete documents. That's very, very important. I just told someone that yesterday, actually, is you can't break this, ma'am. You can't delete any documents, it's gonna be all right. Just go play with it, call me with any questions. So we do webinars and stuff all the time. We try to be very, very hands-on and interactive with our customers when they first sign up so they use it. But yeah, there's quite a divide in the construction industry, isn't there?
Question back here for you, Chris.
Having worked in the construction industry, aside from claims, there's also contract disputes pretty regularly. Have you thought about spinning it so that you could also work with the procurement professionals in getting them the data from the contracts for contract disputes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd actually be interested to talk to you about that afterwards a little bit more, just to get your ideas on how we could do that. But yeah, system works perfectly for managing those types of disputes. So come see me afterwards.
Question. Who else has a question?
The dream is one giant solution for the claim professional to go in real time, understand what's happening in the rest of the country with claims, so they can say, oh, I see Texas is a hotbed for claims right now in the highway industry. Okay, I need to call and proactively start talking to my customers about that. And then taking that data and also feeding it back to the underwriting departments that are writing this insurance contract. So they can say, okay, we are seeing a lot more claims in this area, or they're predicting more claims in this area 2 years down the road. We need to start thinking about that. There's all this data out there related to construction documents. I know one company, for instance, that has an entire warehouse of construction paper documents. Like, they're an insurance company from the last 30 years. Like, I'd love to digitize that. I just want to get all this information and start really measuring construction claims and risk. Because right now it's an industry focused on subjective, what have they been doing for the last 10 years? Do we trust them? That sort of thing. And want to objectify it as much as possible. Yeah, which is it's our customer right now, right? The insurance companies on the claim side, but they typically have a claim side and then an underwriting side. But I just want to create a loop where all their information is fed back into the underwriting side. And each of these insurance companies don't necessarily have enough information in an aggregate just for one company to start making those predictions. But if we can get them all to give us their data and create that giant database of data, then we can start creating that prediction model. Competition, right? They're worried about, well, also because we haven't really launched that initiative yet, we're just handling the claim document side. But what will cause them to hesitate is competition. Do they want to be feeding information into a system that the entire industry can use to measure and evaluate claims?
Question way back here.
So anyone who's watched Jon Stewart in the last 6 months knows that the VFW has got an issue with backed up claims, and I was wondering if you approached them at all about being willing to help out with those kind of issues, or I don't even know if they'd be open to it, but it was something that looked like a nice challenge to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, it's a great question, and we tend to be on the side, I guess, of the sureties and the insurers. Frankly, I used to do government contracts law, so I understand how the procurement process goes to try to get those government contracts. So we haven't gone down that road yet, but we are working on federal projects all the time, state projects. It's just we're on the other side. And typically, it's the insurance companies and the sureties that are willing to pay for this type of solution. Happy to talk to anyone from the government here, GSA maybe, about our solution, though.
Well, that is all the time that we have for questions, but we always have the 1 million cups. What can we as a community do to help Claim Kit?
Let's see. Well, basically, if this is of interest to you, I really like working with people that can somehow get really excited about what we're doing. That's my team right now. So if this sounds interesting, if big data sounds interesting, come talk to me, because I'm just looking to put together that infrastructure now that can help us scale in 2014. It's a big year for us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Chris. All right. I don't want to call anybody out, but I think a few of our audience members are sleepy. Just a little bit, maybe. I know I am personally, so it's not a bad thing. The Silicon Prairie News folks kept me out really late last night at Green Lady Lounge. So thank you guys for that. Hey, and just a question, who here reads Silicon Prairie News on a regular basis? Well, that's a good chunk of you. What are the rest of you reading? All right, real quick, tell them how to get to Silicon Prairie News. Yell it out or something. See, it's really complicated. If you can make it there, you'll keep up on what's going on in the region. Nate, did you have something to add? Kelly has an announcement. Kelly, come over here. Come over here. All right. I was kind of wondering if we had any announcements, but we do. Here's Kelly. Just one.
Thank you. Hey guys, Callie from Roxy's. I just wanted to let everyone know that we've been nominated for the Best of All 2013, and we would love everyone's support and vote in this. It's at www.bestofrawfoods.com. We're under the cookies and crackers section, And we're up against a company that brought in $38 million in sales last year, a raw foods company. So it would be great to have a local Kansas City startup company show them up and let them know that our product's way better than theirs. So we'd really appreciate everyone's support. Thank you.
Vote early and often. All right. Oh, Nate has an announcement. Come up, Nate.
Okay, I know Melissa already did it, but we've been handing out some full-page directions for next week. So December 18th, we are like 3 blocks from here over at UMKC at the Block School. There should be some maps passed around, but parking is free at the parking garage marked on the map on the 5th and 6th floors. I believe that's at 50th and Cherry, and the Block School is at 51st and Cherry. So anyway, I just want to make sure that we've got parking taken care of. The Block School is absolutely phenomenal. It's beautiful. So please come and join us next week.
All right. Okay. Were there any announcements that I missed, since I didn't know any of them? All right, good. We're good to go. All right. So, okay, before we get to our next presenter, is everybody caffeinated? Their twittering thumbs are ready to go? Because even the wall's been sleepy today. I mean, come on, guys. All right. What's that? All right. Melissa's on it. So, all right. So on to our next presentation. Who's here tried to raise money for their company, their business? Yeah. Anybody enjoy that process? No. Oh, wait. One person. Well, our next presenter is creating a new software package that not only increases the effectiveness and the efficiency of the fundraising process for both entrepreneurs and their angels. So please welcome Rachel Qualls to the stage with Venture 360.
Y'all should know that I'm really nervous and I do a lot of public speaking, so it's not that. See, today is the first day that we are launching the entrepreneur-facing part of our product. The investor side of the product's been in the market for a few months, and I'm a little afraid you might tell me my baby's ugly. So, without further ado, the Venture 360 story actually starts with a company that I started 7 years ago called the Angel Capital Group. See, I think angel investing is one of the most important things we'll ever do, not just economically, but socially. So I'm never going to stop creating services and building tools until every single person in this room can raise their hand and say, I'm an angel investor. So I have my work cut out for me. Something wrong with my mic. So, you missed all the good stuff. So anyway, I'm not going to stop until all these things, but I have my work cut out for me, okay? So although we've been very successful, we're one of the largest angel groups in the country. We have 7 locations from Denver to Charleston, hundreds of investors, 30+ companies. I'm still not even really scratching the surface of people who qualify to be angel investors, all right? So there are 5 to 7 million people who qualify to do angel investing. When you break that all down, guess what? This is how many people habitually invest. So if you think it's hard to raise capital, this is why, okay? Now, when we talk to people about angel investing, they tell us there are 2 reasons. First of which is a lot of people have never heard of angel investing, so we have a market awareness issue, okay? But that, whoops, stole my thunder. The second issue is that if people have had an experience angel investing, vast majority of them have lost money. So guess whose fault this really is? This number is our fault. Entrepreneurs, we're doing a really bad job performing, all right? None of us really want to hear that, but it's true. We all need to do a better job performing for our investors, okay? So if we want this number to go up, we need this to go down, okay? This is what Venture 360 has built for you to help you with this. I can't make you better performing entrepreneurs, but there are a lot of support services that can. I'm here to help you with these 2 things, okay? Transparency and liquidity. So as an investor in 30+ companies, I know a little about both sides of this table, okay? I've raised capital for 3 of my own ventures. First thing that we do really badly is we don't communicate well with our investors, okay? So my portfolio companies usually talk to me for 2 reasons. First of which is to tell me everything is fabulous and everything's gonna be great and look at all this press we're getting. The second reason is, oh shit, we need money, okay? And it's only those 2. I know what my parents feel like when I was in college. I was like, love you, mean it, now send money, okay? The other problem is lack of liquidity. So if I invest and I buy stock in a private company, how do I get my money out? Well, I need someone to come along that's willing to pay me more for my stock than I originally bought it, okay? These are two very rare situations, because the first one is that company has to go public, which we all know doesn't happen very often. The second is they need to be acquired by another company, and that's it. So it's really hard to make money in private equity, okay? I know I'm convincing everybody here to run out and be an angel investor, and you're all really excited. But there's a reason I'm doing this. All right, so we built Venture 360. It's gonna solve these problems for you guys. This is what we don't do. We are not a marketing platform for your deal, okay? These companies do a really good job of that. I'm not interested in that market. I built you a private deal room, okay? Well, Venture 360, the first thing that we do, we spent years acquiring data to build you an education module, an interactive education module, on how competitive your venture is going to be in the investment landscape, okay? So it's one thing for your company to make money, it's another thing to be competitive when you're going to go out and raise money. So this will give you a Venture 360 score. Now this score is gonna help you understand, and you can go in and edit your score and change it, and we're gonna build you an interactive business plan, because this is stuff that investors actually want to read, right? We hate reading business plans as much as you hate writing them. And we are going to, and in your score there, this is actually Venture 360's actual score of 77%. Most startup companies aren't gonna score in the 90s, because we have holes in our ventures, that's why we're raising money, right? But it's gonna help you understand that how to improve your score, how to be more market ready, how to compare to other ventures, and then this is what you share with potential investors, and they can go up there and make commitments. And it looks like this. Everybody's committed money to your deal. You know, I signed up for this, and Mike's like, you know, Rach, you can't talk about fundraising. I'm like, it's kind of my whole presentation's fundraising. Not for me, though. He's like, okay, you're good. But all of your investors are gonna go in here and commit money. And within Venture 360, we have integrated electronic signature and funds transfer systems. So you can click one button and close your whole funding round. Yay, okay. And then you can come in here and you can say, okay, how much money you've raised, and we're gonna manage and help you manage your cap table. What's your cap table? It's a thing that says who owns what where, right? So we're gonna say how much you have committed to your current round, how much you've raised to date. Again, integrated electronic signature and messaging, so you can keep your investors up to date more consistently than, hey, everything's fine and oh shit, we need money. So the other thing is, you're an entrepreneur, not an accountant. I've never met an entrepreneur, although I have an accounting degree, who is a good accountant, all right? So we will also do all of your bookkeeping, payroll, and taxes, because these are the things that your investors need to know also. And then, this is a really good thing to ask me a question about, because I don't have a lot of time to go into too many details. But the other thing I talked about was liquidity, right? We need different options of being able to get out of these deals. It's one thing to get into them, it's another thing to get out of them. So what we're gonna do at Venture 360 is we're gonna set up what's called a funding entity for you, okay? So this funding entity is going to manage all these investor relationships for you instead of them hitting your individual cap table. Remember, ask me a question. So the software serves just 25 bucks a month, but I have a little surprise for you in a second. The accounting is $500 a month. That includes all of your bookkeeping, payroll, and taxes. The one-time fee for structuring is $5,000. We'll do all of the K1s for all those people and manage those relationships. So thank you. If you send me an email, I know a few people, so we can get you a free entrepreneur account since we're launching it today for all of 2014. So thank you. I'll take your questions.
Great stuff. All right, questions for Rachel. Oh, you guys, you're killing me. Nate.
Just a comment. This is awesome. Like, this is really cool.
Baby's not ugly is what you're saying?
It's not ugly. I think one of the most interesting things for the Kauffman Foundation is the educational part of that. Because we brought in, last year in 2012, I think we brought in the 50 deal makers in town that are making all the deals, spending all the money in startups.
My invite.
And we basically figured out that they have to look at 1,000 deals to find one good deal. It's just so time consuming. And what they were saying, probably the number one theme is the entrepreneurs aren't educated enough. You know, they don't know necessarily how to structure the deals. And so I think the interesting thing that you mentioned was there's an educational component to then getting ready. So that's my comment.
You can vet yourselves. Saves everybody a lot of time. Helps you be more competitive.
Question in the back.
Hi, I've got a couple of questions actually. I'm interested and excited about that. Some things I'm looking at when I'm trying to raise money for my company are things that you believe your software can do, but what if there's something I see on my score and I really want to increase it, but I don't know how? Is there anyone I can call at Venture 360 that may say, okay, I get what you're doing, here's how you could help build your portfolio, giving you suggestions? That's kind of question one. And then question two, I've been through venture capital a lot like yours, maybe not a lot like yours, but in that realm. And some people will have one person that reviews it and says, you know what, I looked at your portfolio, everything looks okay, but I was looking at maybe your marketing shares or who your group would be going after. And you know what, I really don't believe it. Is it one person that kind of pulls the trigger on that, or is there a board of people that would review it, or how do you connect the venture or that person, that entrepreneur, to that capital angel? How's that process?
How do we do it at Angel Capital Group?
Yeah.
I already forgot your first question.
Sorry. But the first question was, if I need help, can I call
who
Venture?
can I? So Venture 360 is not a service organization for that. We're not prepared to do that as of yet. However, there are a lot of organizations that are, in fact, we're in one today, right? So one of the long-term goals that we have, and Kaufman doesn't know this, so I'm putting him on the spot, is to sort of connect, if you score low, say in IP or something, maybe we can work with Kaufman in connecting you with resources that can help you with things like that. I don't have any near-term plans for Venture 360 to do that. Now, as far as the gatekeepers go with Angel Capital Group specifically, we source deals from all across the country. We're the only angel group that I know of that's not geographically specific. So we actually employ both our staff, our chapter presidents, of which, there are 7, and then we also reach out to our angels, so our angels have to have subject matter expertise before we'll invest in a deal. So it's sort of our vetting process.
Question right here.
So I absolutely love your concept. I love what you're doing. And are you looking for talent? And if so, what type of talent are you looking for?
Yes, thank you. That's the one thing I forgot. We're hiring. Oh my word, we're hiring. Venture 360 is hiring mainly sales staff and support. We have our development, at least our current needs, all under control. So if you're interested in, and it's also working with Angel Capital Group too and investor relations. So software sales support for Venture 360 and investor relations for Angel Capital Group.
Next question back here.
Hi. So this seems like something that would be really great to link with some of the great resources over at KC SourceLink as well, for people that are looking to start up businesses and already have them going. Just need those resources and education like you'd mentioned. And I was curious if maybe you had reached out to them, as well as the numerous accelerators that are popping up around town. Some great networking opportunities there if you haven't already looked at that.
Well, those are my early adopters, so 2 of the incubators here in town. That's my largest market segment on the investor side of the platform, are accelerators and incubators. They basically run mini angel groups, right? So they get you prepared for this demo day, and they're trying to get you funding. So, and then, this is the first time I've talked publicly about the entrepreneur side of the program. So now I have to go out and do the work of forging those relationships with KC SourceLink and all the amazing resources we have in Kansas City to help get this in your hands, entrepreneurs. So. Remember, it's free. All you have to do is email me.
Tracy has a question.
Okay.
If I was your mom, I would say, take a breath and slow down so that I can hear all the words. I'm the name person, apparently. Venture360.co is not venture360.com. Is that a competitor? Are you missing leads that you're steering to a competitor by not having a .com name?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that I'm cheap and I don't want to pay for the .com.
We had one lady said, well, I can't change my name. I just spent $9 on business cards. And it's like, come on, dig deep. And do you think there is a market for what was alluded to for the coaching, how to improve your credit score? Isn't that what people really need, is coaching?
Is there a market for it? Yes. Is it a market I want to go after? No.
Next question to your left.
So the Rachel on your left.
Sorry.
It's okay.
My bad.
So that can you talk about that score? So evaluating the quality of a deal is actually not the most well agreed upon thing. So how do you determine what the score is? How much of a consensus is there around the score that you've established, and can you talk about a little bit how you developed that?
I don't know that our score should ever be used to make an investment decision necessarily, because it's not what we designed it to do, nor is it what we want you to do. We spent years compiling data and research of what typical ventures had in place before they went out and received funding. More importantly, we then compared it to the VentureSource database of what those companies were actually successful. So we at Angel Capital Group ultimately want to be predicting success as good as we can. The goal of what we compiled for you guys is to help you understand what the companies have in place that we're funding. The companies that are getting funding, what are the boxes you need to be checking off? That's what the score is meant to do, is to help you understand where you have holes and how to fill them, either with money or something else.
Question right here.
Or I thought it was before.
This is our first time at 1 Million Cups, so we have a small group here from Fargo, North Dakota, so it's really great to see a group out here.
Welcome to Kansas City.
Yeah, looking to possibly start one in Fargo in the short term. I just want to say it's great to see something like this. My first company, we were looking for capital. We didn't really get any because Fargo, North Dakota isn't, it's still growing, but there's not the group of investors you would see in larger hubs. We didn't get money, but we still exited, so I guess it worked out. But my question is this mainly, would this serve as a tool? Is it more local, or is this kind of like a national scale? And then my second question would be, is this for accredited investors only, and is it a closed group?
I'm hoping everybody on the planet uses it. So it's not just a local focus. It is only for accredited investors currently, so it's a private deal room. So you, entrepreneurs, when you create your portal, you're gonna go out and invite your investors to come and view your information. You do have to be accredited. You have to self-certify accreditation to access Venture 360. That's because it's law right now. It's a very complex set of explanation going into crowdfunding legislation right now. But as of right now, you have to be accredited.
Question right here.
So I noticed on there you were talking about payroll and accounting, and you had a set price. You're just subcontracting that out? I mean, what happens when the company goes larger, and obviously that pricing is subject to change? Are you just throwing numbers out there to us today?
That's not my style. I don't just throw numbers out. But it's a fair question because you need different services as you grow as a company. Your bookkeeping, payroll, and taxes are a very scalable, sort of flat part of your business, believe it or not. You add more to it, but once you have the system set up, they can scale pretty quickly. What doesn't scale as you grow are CFO services. We are not a CFO, so if you still have to write all your checks and pay your invoices and all of that, we just compile all the data, crunch it, and then produce the reports that you need for the IRS and for your investors. So it actually doesn't change that much as you grow. But you will need a full-time CFO eventually.
Okay.
Next question up front to your left here.
All right, so my startup and my regular business are not in a place where we're looking for funding, paying the bills. But I see everything that you're presenting up there, and I was up on stage 2 weeks ago asking for money for the nonprofit that I work with, Cinema KC. These are the kind of investors that we want to connect with to grow our nonprofit, but that aren't interested necessarily in seeing a future return on revenue. Is there any way that a nonprofit like ours could work within your system to connect with people that are interested in, say, funding the arts and not looking for a revenue return on it?
I don't know that this would be your best tool. I think there are a lot better tools in the not-for-profit space of connecting with and engaging donors that are going to, quite frankly, probably be better than mine, because mine's geared more towards the entrepreneur side of things and raising capital, managing investors, people who most definitely would like to get their money back. Yeah. I just feel like you'd have better tools out there in the donor space, even regardless of the size of the donor. Now, if you're wanting to market to rich people, then, well, get in line. Everybody's wanting to get access to rich people, I guess, right? Yes. Yes, sir. This is my end game. So can't. So you asked, what are some other options for liquidity, okay? Because remember, my goal is to get everybody in here an angel investor someday. In order to do that, I have to reduce your risk factors. The largest risk factor still is lack of liquidity, okay? How we address that, you can do different kinds of deals that allow you to participate in percentage of revenue of companies, so there are things you can do with that. Those structuring services that I told you guys about are really important and really part of our special sauce, okay? Because the investors, excuse me, let me go back to that little slide really fast, because this is my end game with Venture 360, is a private online secondary market, okay? We want to be able to buy and sell these shares like you do in the public markets. The problem is that you as entrepreneurs, if all of these people hit your cap table and we're over here, and all of a sudden Steve wants to sell to Susie and Susie wants to sell to Bob, and you'd have to track all that, right? So over here at the company side, you have what are called transfer restrictions. You don't want people selling your stock in and out all day long, right? You got your own headaches. We already talked about all those. But if you engage Venture 360, we set up a company that now has all these investors in it for you, okay? These investors, on this side of the table, we don't have transfer restrictions. Now these investors can get out of that deal anytime they want. They just have to find someone to buy it from them. And it never, ever affects you over here, okay? It's how we design things at Angel Capital Group. So our investors right now, we have a private market where they buy and sell stuff all the time, and our portfolio companies never know it, right? So that's what we're really trying to create here, ultimately, is long-term adoption of doing deals at the earliest stage differently so we can facilitate an actual market for these securities. Yes, yes, sir.
Hi there. So if I have an investor that I want to be a part of a round and they're not in Venture 360, how does that work?
You just invite them. You send them an email, and then they have a Venture 360 account.
Okay, so they do have to create a Venture 360. Okay. Second, do you plan to take advantage of inefficiencies in that market where one deal might be worth more to an investor than another in the buying, trading process?
Do I plan? I don't know. So Venture 360 is just going to be a platform for trading those securities, okay? The reason we've paid, it took so many years to develop this, and we paid particular attention to how you're applying for funding, how we're scoring things. All of these things will ultimately build into your private market valuation, right? Your reporting, all of these things play into my end game, which is that private secondary market, okay? So there will be a lot of inefficiencies, just like there are now in the market so others will be playing on that. I don't know that Venture 360 will ever. We're just a platform for that.
Another question in the back of the room.
Okay.
One of the most critical things in a startup is, of course, how many weeks until the paychecks start bouncing. Can you just comment on what sort of predictive or planning facilities you have in this? Can you go 6 months out, 2 years out, and say when you're going to need a second round, if you need a second round, when you expect positive cash flow, things like that?
Part of the accounting, if you engage us for the accounting services, your investors are given monthly reporting, okay? One of the problems is, remember I told you, so my portfolio companies usually only contact me for 2 reasons: to tell me everything's going amazing, and then, oh shit, we need money. So the problem is, when you need money, chances are you've waited too long to tell your investors, and you need it like yesterday, okay? Well, your investors aren't just going to wire you money because you need it. They're going to go, well, what's going on? The last communication I got from you was everything was fantastic, and now you're telling me you need money in 2 weeks to make payroll. They're going to do complete due diligence on you. Why? Because they don't want to put good money after bad, okay? Because you didn't do a good job of communicating with them all along that, look, we didn't get that big sale that we thought we would in November. Look, now we're, X amount, it's accelerated our depletion of cash flow. It's got, all of this. Then they would wire you money in 2 weeks, but you didn't do any of that. So part of what Venture 360 is doing is to help you be better communicators by doing all the stuff you don't want to do and helping your investors be more engaged with your company long term.
Question here to your right.
Good questions. You guys are awesome.
I actually have a couple of questions for you. Maybe I missed this information, but from your pool, within your pool of investors, what's the investment power they hold? That's my first question.
I don't know.
So you don't know how much you can fund?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. The second question is rather quickly. How do you compare, or your program compares, to companies like Matrix Partners?
Sorry, I'm not familiar with the company. Are they a venture capital
So
firm?
you're
or-
not familiar with a company that funds companies like Apple and takes them public within 5 years?
Are they a private equity? So are they an investment? No, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with it. Are they an
Matrix
investment
Partners
bank?
is a hard lending money.
They're a what? Forgive me?
Hard lending money company?
They're a lending company.
Hard lending money company. How do you compare to, let's broad this question. How does your program and your pool of investors compares to a hard lending money company
On the Angel Capital Group side?
on the whole program? Because what you're doing is brokering, right?
No, not on the software side. So Angel Capital Group is an entirely different company from Venture 360. I've stepped down as CEO of Angel Capital Group and now run Venture 360. It's a software division of actually what powers Angel Capital Group. They're two completely different things. On the Venture 360 side, all we are is a software and a service to help entrepreneurs and investors better communicate and do deals. On the Angel Capital Group side, we're trying to find the best companies in the country to fund and make money. On that side, we're, for lack of a better word, a service organization for the investors.
Rachel, question for you all the way here in the back.
Yes.
Okay, I got the taking more of your time with two questions. Frequently, when you're doing private deals, you can structure them in all sorts of very creative ways, and you can write a long contract. Do you have provisions for doing things like convertible debt, combinations of equity, convertible debt, and different classes of investors coming into your company?
Coming into my company, Venture 360, as an investor, or how do I as an investor structure deals? I'm just trying to make sure I answer it appropriately.
As I understand it, you're mainly dealing with the accounting and reporting.
Yes.
And managing the relationship, well, helping the information relationship between the company and the investors. But now that can get complex if you have different types of investors who have different agreements with the companies. So say you have one straight equity investor, but then you say, well, we have enough cash flow, we can do a convertible bond with somebody, and then that leaves you with two types of investors, and you have to then manage the cash flows and report to those different people, and that convertible bond person may jump up and say, I want to convert. And this all comes back to the accounting and accounting for ownership shares and things like that, and I was just wondering how flexible the software is for complex investor complex investor agreements.
It is pretty good. You're right. So every deal can be as complex or as simple as you want to make it, okay? Our software is designed to say, how much did you buy? How many shares did you buy? What did you pay for it? And when did you buy it, okay? The complexities come into sort of exiting, liquidity preferences, all of these things. The software doesn't track because we track that when you exit. When you exit, we have a whole different system for that. But it will track every round that you did, who participated in that round, what they paid, what they bought, when they bought it, all right, which is the premise of what you need to do all the more complex stuff later. More importantly, it tracks it for your investors, okay? So the investor side of the platform tracks their entire portfolio, so what companies they bought, how much they paid for them, when they bought them, whether or not they've exited them, all this stuff. That doesn't actually exist in the market. You would think it would, right? If I've done 36 deals, the first thing all of my investors want to know is what's going on with my money, right? We didn't have a way of tracking that before Venture 360. We did it with Excel, and we tried to make it look pretty, but that's one of the main value adds of Venture 360 on the investor side, is tracking all of that.
All right, Rachel, you've gotten through all your questions,
You guys are
except
pretty easy on
this
me.
very last one, which is what can we, as the 1 Million Cups family, do to help you out?
Well, I hope you'll take me up on the free entrepreneur account offer and test it and tweak it and hopefully find a bug or two and let me know. And the other thing is, if you know of anybody who is interested in sort of working with a startup and an early stage company, we are hiring for software sales support. So please let me know. All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Venture 360. All right, just a reminder, again, where are we next week? Very good. If you come here, you will not see 1 Million Cups and be unhappy. So we'll see you next week at the Block School. Have a great week.